One night, a monster chased my hero. He ran in fear, trying to escape from it. My hero wondered why such misfortune had fallen on him. When he was cornered and the monster was about to attack, he cried out for help. Suddenly, a girl appeared and defeated the monster in an instant. She smiled at him, leaving my hero shocked by what he had just experienced. After the incident, my hero brought the girl to his house. The next morning, they had breakfast together. The girl cheerfully talked about the night before, saying that if she had not been there, my hero might have been in serious danger. She told him there was no need to thank her. When my hero asked her to explain what had actually happened, the girl avoided the question, talking instead about her food. She quickly turned on the television because it was time for a superhero show. While watching, she commented that Earth was fun, and the bright morning had already lifted her spirits. My hero asked why the monster had been after him, but she dodged the question again, saying that the miso soup was delicious and asking my hero to get her another serving. Taking the chance while she was distracted, my hero threw his fork in her arm. Startled, the girl asked what he was doing. My hero insisted that she explain about the monster and who she really was. The girl finally introduced herself as Naruko. My hero immediately guessed that she must be connected to Cthulhu. He knew a little about it from reading Lovecraft's works, and in his mind, Naruko should have looked like a terrifying creature with twisting tentacles or surrounded by a sickening fog. Naruko replied that if my hero really wanted her to look like that, she could transform, but warned that doing so would cost him his soul. Naruko explained that she had come to Earth because she had a mission to complete. She described her role in detail, and my hero realized that she was basically an alien working for a planetary defense organization sent to protect Earth. My hero found it strange to think that the god Cthulhu was actually an alien. He did not know if he could believe all of it, but Naruko insisted that she was telling the truth. She revealed that she had received information about a major deal involving a criminal organization she had been chasing for a long time. They were involved in interstellar drug trade, smuggling across the galaxy, and even human trafficking. My hero was shocked to hear this and wondered if that was why they were after him. Naruko admitted that they were indeed dealing in human trafficking, but assured my hero that he had nothing to worry about because she was there to protect him. My hero was surprised that Naruko even knew his name. She confessed that she had done thorough research about him, even knowing that his parents were away on their 17th honeymoon. Naruko then declared that she would stay by his side at all times to protect him. She said she would remain close to him from the moment he greeted the morning till he said goodnight. Embarrassed by her words, my hero's face turned red. Naruko teased him, saying that he looked cute when he blushed. Irritated, my hero pointed his fork at her. Naruko quickly apologized, promising not to interfere with his personal matters again and to keep his secrets safe. She then urged my hero to leave the house because it was dangerous to stay there. The two of them went to an anime shop. Naruko was thrilled to see so many of her favorite comics and wanted to collect them all. Annoyed, my hero jabbed her with his fork again. He reminded her that he thought she had come to protect him. Naruko admitted that protecting my hero was her main mission, but she also had other goals like catching the criminal organization and shopping. My hero suspected that the last one was only her personal desire. Naruko explained that Earth had been marked as a top priority for the Planetary Defense Organization. She also said the reason she came to the anime shop was because it contained entertainment, and the entertainment on Earth was the best in the universe. That was why beings like the so-called Cthulhu gods were interested in coming here. They wanted to use their powers to obtain such things. My hero told her not to do that. Naruko went on to say that the criminal group she was chasing was guilty of smuggling creative works like these. There were strict limits on how much could be obtained legally, which made them rare. My hero asked her to return everything she had bought, but Naruko argued that it was not a crime unless she was caught. My hero had recorded what she said and threatened to report her to her superiors if she did not do her job properly. Naruko, however, still wanted to buy the items, proudly showing that she even had a membership point card. After leaving the anime store, Naruko looked overjoyed. Izuka admitted that she was happy too because she had finally gotten her job, explaining that she had to negotiate with her boss to secure it. Naruko then mentioned how the whole universe seemed to enjoy Earth's entertainment, but she had another reason. When she saw the data about the person she was assigned to protect, she heard a sound effect in her head, like when an enemy appears in a game. In other words, that person was her type. My hero was shocked by that confession. Naruko declared that it was love at first sight. My hero felt uncomfortable when Naruko hugged him. He reminded her that she shouldn't mix work with personal feelings, especially since my hero assumed that her mission was only to protect his life. Naruko replied that she was still getting paid, which confused my hero since she had just been shopping. Naruko then asked if they should get started with the job. Without warning, she pushed my hero and pulled him into another dimension. There she managed to punch a monster that was about to capture my hero. As it turned out, Naruko had used My Hero as bait, and it worked. My Hero couldn't believe it since he thought they left the house simply because it was dangerous there. Naruko told him not to worry because she had already set up a barrier at home which allowed her to fight without attracting too much attention. My Hero looked frustrated and asked if she was really serious about protecting him. Naruko firmly stated that she was, and she would prove it by showing the strength of space close quarters combat, also known as hand-to-hand fighting. Naruko jumped straight at the monster and struck it with a powerful kick. The scene even made My Hero wince. Not stopping there, she followed up by using a chunk of rock as a weapon. My Hero turned his head away, refusing to watch because it was just too intense for him. Once the monster was defeated, Naruko was thrilled with her victory, but My Hero commented that she looked more like the villain than the hero. She quickly returned them both to their original dimension. My Hero thanked her for saving him, and she blushed, saying it was part of her job. She admitted again that she really liked him and leaned in as if to kiss him, but My Hero immediately rejected the idea. The next morning, My Hero prepared to go to school. He asked Naruko if it was really okay for him to walk there alone. Naruko reassured him, saying she would come right away if there was any sign of danger. When My Hero arrived in class, Takahiko greeted him and asked why he looked so exhausted. My Hero said it wasn't easy to explain. Takahiko assumed it must be difficult living without his parents and offered to help, telling My Hero he could always talk to him about it. Later that day in Class 2-4, a transfer student was introduced. The teacher asked the new student to step forward and introduce herself. To My Hero's shock, the transfer student was none other than Naruko. She entered the classroom smiling and announced herself as the chaos that had come crawling to My Hero. She constructed a strange celebratory pose that embarrassed him. Unable to take it, My Hero threw a book at her and said that nobody had called for her. During her introduction, Naruko claimed that she was part of My Hero's family, giving her full name as Yasaka Nyarlathotep, but told everyone they could call her Naruko. During gym class, Takahiko admitted he never knew My Hero had relatives overseas. He praised Naruko, saying she was amazing for capturing the class's attention so easily, speaking Japanese fluently, and being really athletic. My Hero understood that Naruko's reason for enrolling was to protect him, but he was still confused why she had to go as far as joining his school. Naruko, however, seemed cheerful about it. At that moment, Tamao, nicknamed the Walking Speaker, she asked if something was bothering him. My Hero wanted to know what Tamao actually wanted. It turned out that Tamao was hoping to interview him. She asked how My Hero really felt about Naruko, especially since they were two young adults living under the same roof, and she assumed Naruko might be missing her hometown. What My Hero didn't know was that Tamao had already spoken with Naruko earlier, and Naruko had openly said she was in love with My Hero, though she wasn't sure how he felt in return. My Hero was stunned that Naruko had said something like that. He didn't answer Tamao's question, but Tamao quickly concluded that My Hero felt the same way. Excited, she rushed off to tell everyone. My Hero tried to stop her, but it was too late. Tamao had already spread the news to their classmates. During lunch break, Naruko brought a homemade bento for My Hero, saying she had prepared it with love like a wife would. My Hero told her that she did not need to go through all that trouble since he could just buy bread for lunch. Naruko looked a little sad hearing his response because all she really wanted was to sit next to him and share a meal. Instead, My Hero seemed to think that store-bought bread would taste better than the lunch she had carefully made. Tamao stepped in and suggested that My Hero should eat the bento, reminding him how much effort Naruko had put into it. She also felt it would be too harsh to let Naruko's feelings go to waste. In the end, My Hero gave in and agreed to try it. Naruko became overjoyed and quickly presented the lunchbox. The food looked normal, which surprised My Hero since he had not expected her to have the time to cook all of that. Naruko explained that she could move faster than logic could explain, but My Hero suspected she was just exaggerating. She asked him not to worry about the details. When My Hero tasted the food, he admitted he had never eaten fried meat like that before and asked what kind of meat she had used. Naruko only smiled and turned her head away without answering. Since she stayed quiet, My Hero threatened to throw the food away. Naruko reassured him that it was nothing dangerous and promised it was safe. She also teased him by saying that the next day she would prepare a BLT sandwich using strange names from her world, which made My Hero warn her not to use monsters as ingredients. Later in class, My Hero noticed a monster outside the school. Terrified, he tried to call Naruko, but she was sound asleep at her desk while mumbling nonsense. To wake her up, My Hero tapped her, which drew the teacher's attention. When asked what was going on, Naruko pretended she was suffering from a mysterious condition and asked permission to head to the student infirmary, insisting that My Hero accompany her. As they walked down the hallway, Naruko explained that ordinary people could not see the monster because it was surrounded by a barrier. She then invited my hero to join her in defeating it. They shifted into another dimension and approached the creature, which turned out to be a night gaunt, the same kind of monster she had faced before. Tired of fighting the same enemy, she decided to use a monster capsule. She reached inside her clothes to retrieve it, causing my hero to look away with embarrassment. Naruko wondered why he reacted like that, while his face turned red and he muttered that she was the one who should be more careful. She then threw the capsule, summoning her pet bird, Shantak. Naruko ordered Shantak to attack the night gaunt with all its strength. Shantak charged at the night gaunt but was immediately struck down. Naruko admitted she had expected this, explaining that Shantak had already lost 99 battles and drawn once against a night gaunt. Confused, my hero asked why she would still use Shantak. Naruko answered with a strange saying about how things that perform poorly can still have a certain charm. The night gaunt advanced toward them, and my hero pleaded with Naruko to do something. She declared that she would use her secret move, second volume of Space CQC. Pulling out her staff, she struck the monster, and before long, the night gaunt split apart and was defeated. Back in her own dimension, Naruko laughed and said the fight had been entertaining. Meanwhile, my hero crouched down silently, shaken after witnessing the monster's blood. He then asked what kind of staff she had used. Naruko described it as an unspeakable staff, but my hero told her to stop mixing Cthulhu references into everything. That night, my hero was soaking in the bath, still wondering why all these things kept happening to him. Suddenly, Naruko appeared in the bathroom, startling him. My hero immediately demanded that she leave, but she claimed she wanted to deepen their bond before his parents returned from their trip. She moved closer, attempting to kiss him, but my hero quickly blocked her with a fork and firmly asked her to get out of the bathroom. That day, the number of monsters going after my hero kept growing. Naruko told him not to worry, since she would take care of them all. She tossed a grenade at the monsters, and the explosion wiped them out in an instant. My hero then asked how long this would keep happening, and if Naruko couldn't just find the monster's hideout and destroy it once and for all. Naruko was surprised that he thought it sounded that easy. It was true the monsters always seemed to be one step ahead, but from that moment on, Naruko decided that she and my hero would take the fight to them. She said it was finally time. Naruko opened a dimensional portal and everything around them froze. Even the birds in the sky hung motionless. She explained that the stars had aligned and that Warrior was about to rise to the surface. Soon, Naruko and my hero were sailing together. She claimed the day was perfect for a voyage and suggested they head for the Grand Line, but my hero refused. Then she said they could go treasure hunting, yet he still turned her down. She even suggested visiting the largest prison to free one of their allies, but my hero refused again. My hero then asked what kind of creature they were riding. It turned out to be a dragon acting as a water taxi to take them straight to Warrior. Naruko called the dragon sweet, which made my hero question her logic. She then teased him, saying he probably wouldn't believe how beautiful the dragon's girlfriend, Hydra, was. My hero had no interest in entertaining that thought. Since Warrior was known as a city tied to Cthulhu, my hero wondered why they needed to go there at all. Naruko reminded him that he was the one who wanted to put an end to the enemies, and she added that Warrior was also home to a black market auction house selling all kinds of forbidden goods. She figured they could take care of everything in one trip. Not long after, more monsters began gathering, all heading to Warrior as well. Naruko mentioned that Warrior was also home to the biggest amusement park in the universe, managed by a Cthulhu-based company on Earth. When they finally arrived, Naruko was thrilled. She pointed out the world's third largest roller coaster, the Lang Highlands go-karts, and explained that it took 2 hours just to get inside the Arkham attraction. She even showed my hero a mask shaped like the mascot from Innsmouth. Disgusted, my hero stabbed it with a fork. He grew frustrated, thinking they came there to stop the auction, not to play around, and told them to focus on the mission properly. Eventually, they reached the auction site, which Naruko had located using her divine radar. She handed my hero a small box, calling it a wedding ring. Shocked and annoyed, my hero threw the box down and stomped on it. Naruko quickly explained that she was only joking, and in reality, the box held a protective charm. Since they were about to infiltrate enemy territory, the charm would help keep him safe. My hero reluctantly picked it up, and the two of them went inside. My hero was surprised to find that the place was much larger on the inside than it looked from the outside. Naruko explained that the space was intentionally confusing. After walking for a while, they were confronted by a massive creature. It was Nodens, and Naruko had suspected all along that he was behind everything. Nodens announced that the players had finally arrived and the auction was about to begin. In an instant, Mahiro and Nyaruko were surrounded by a crowd of monsters. Nyaruko couldn't believe Nodens had gone this far, especially with her standing right there. She threatened to cut down both him and the guests if needed. Of course, Nodens knew she would try to stop him, so he ordered Thuko to fight her. Nyaruko was shocked, since Thuko was an enemy of the Nyarlathotepians. The two of them had attended the same kindergarten and grade school, and they had fought countless battles against each other since then. Mahiro nervously asked if Nyaruko couldn't defeat her, but Nyaruko admitted she had a weakness. This worried Mahiro, especially since Thuko seemed incredibly powerful. Suddenly, Thuko hurled a wave of fire at them. Nyaruko immediately shoved Mahiro aside to shield him from the flames. Thuko then grabbed Nyaruko by the neck and lifted her off the ground. Despite her strength, Nyaruko couldn't break free. Nodens quickly transported both of them to another place where no one else could see the fight. After that, Nyaruko was transported to a place called the Nodens Dimension, a space where her enemy's powers doubled while her own strength weakened. Nyaruko began to panic because Mahiro had been left behind. She needed to return quickly, since if she didn't, Mahiro would be in serious danger. Thuko, however, declared that she would not allow Nyaruko to leave that place. Nyaruko prepared to fight Thuko with her Outer Space CQC Part 5. She threw a grenade at Thuko, but Thuko easily deflected it. It turned out Thuko's Outer Space CQC was actually Type 100. Thuko then launched a barrage of laser fangs at Nyaruko, who swiftly dodged them, almost as if she were performing in some kind of dimensional circus. Thuko suddenly asked if Nyaruko remembered the love they once shared. Nyaruko admitted she didn't understand what Thuko was talking about. As Nyaruko countered another attack and hurled her staff toward her opponent, she was confident it would land a direct hit, but Thuko snapped the weapon apart with ease. Thuko then unleashed an overwhelming number of laser fangs. Nyaruko was shocked, since she had believed Thuko only had two. Thuko simply replied that everyone grows stronger day by day. Nyaruko refused to accept that reasoning, arguing that unlimited laser fire was nothing compared to true hand-to-hand combat. Out of nowhere, Thuko quoted a line from their school textbooks, saying one should always believe in outer space CQC, even if others might not agree. As lasers rained down on Nyaruko, Thuko managed to restrain her on a bed. Nyaruko was completely confused about what Thuko was doing. Thuko looked at her closely and commented that Nyaruko had grown up. She then confessed that she had always loved Nyaruko, wrapping her arms around her. Thuko said her feelings had been there since kindergarten. Meanwhile, in another part of the dimension, Nodens was preparing for an auction. The monsters were overjoyed, eagerly awaiting the event. Nodens restrained Mahiro and demanded to know what he could possibly offer. Mahiro, still in disbelief, was convinced Nodens was only joking. Back in the other battle, Nyaruko rejected Thuko's confession, pointing out that it made no sense. Nyaruko was in Nyarlathotep while Thuko was a Cthulhu, which by definition made them natural enemies. Thuko, however, insisted that her grandfather once told her that even a Cthulhu could fall in love with a Nyarlathotep, and that true freedom meant following those feelings. Thuko asked if Nyaruko loved Mahiro. Nyaruko admitted that she had fallen for Mahiro at first sight, describing him as her soulmate, someone bound to her by destiny itself. Hearing this, Thuko's expression darkened. She declared that Mahiro would be doomed, claiming she would destroy him completely. Nyaruko immediately broke free from her restraints and stood her ground. She swore she would never allow Thuko to harm Mahiro, and that she would show Thuko the seriousness of her resolve in battle. Nyaruko activated her enhanced outer space CQC, transforming in an instant. She explained that there was only one reason she had to defeat Thuko, because Thuko had made her truly angry. Thuko could not understand why Nyaruko chose Mahiro despite her own love being so strong. She fired another blast of lasers at Nyaruko. They had no effect. Nyaruko's body was now protected. Nyaruko charged forward and struck Thuko with a powerful punch, sending her crashing to the ground. At the same time, Mahiro was still trapped in Nodens' grasp. He remembered the good luck charm Nyaruko had given him earlier and opened it, wondering if it really held any power. The moment he did, Nyaruko, in her new transformed form, emerged from the charm itself. The monsters watching gasped, recognizing the symbol of the Planetary Defense Organization. Terrified, they panicked and fled the scene, vanishing into the distance. Nyaruko shouted, asking if Mahiro was still safe, especially his well-being. She admitted she had come to rescue him, striking down Nodens' tentacles and catching Mahiro as he was falling. Nodens grew frustrated and demanded to know what Nyaruko had done to Thuko. Nyaruko replied that she had defeated Thuko as easily as a monster that collapses at the very start of a movie. Nodens was shocked to hear this, since he had hoped to profit from the auction. But with his plans ruined, he was forced to retreat. Just as he turned away, Naruko blocked his path and asked what he had intended to do with My Hero. Nonins explained that My Hero had been chosen as the main character for a new TV drama series. It was based on a comic about a girl from Earth and was said to be a glittering story of love and conflict, purchased by a young entrepreneur. Naruko questioned if it was some sort of strange show. Nodens admitted that at first he believed he could earn money by placing My Hero as the central role for the auction. My Hero was stunned to realize everything he had endured was for something so foolish. Nodens strongly disagreed with him, claiming it was not foolish at all, and explained that he had many great ideas for My Hero's role, such as wearing accessories or strolling around dramatically for romantic effect. According to Nodens, My Hero was a perfect fit for such a performance. My Hero became irritated by Nodens' explanation and told Naruko to finish him off. Without hesitation, Naruko unleashed her final purifying shot, destroying Nodens and the place where they stood. Afterward, Naruko returned to the park. She said her mission on Earth was complete since she had eliminated everything that threatened My Hero. She also admitted she no longer had any reason to stay on Earth. With a flushed face, My Hero thanked her. Even though he knew she had many hidden motives, he could not ignore the fact that she had protected him despite them not knowing each other for very long. He was truly grateful and promised he would never forget her. Naruko became overjoyed and teased that My Hero had just confessed his love to her. My Hero quickly denied it, saying he was only being polite, and told her not to misunderstand. Still, Naruko felt happy about being assigned to protect him. When My Hero turned to face her, Naruko stopped him, saying that Warrior would sink back into the ocean, the galaxy would begin to move again, and their story would end there. They would go back to living separate lives. She reminded My Hero to take care of his health before bidding him farewell. Time then resumed and My Hero returned to his world. Once he got home, he was surprised to find Naruko greeting him at the door. She told him she knew he must be tired after working so hard and offered to take care of him. My Hero, shocked, reacted by tossing something at her and demanded to know why she was still in his house. He had thought she had gone back to her world and disappeared for good. Naruko explained that the organization targeting him had been completely destroyed, but she suspected new enemies might appear again, which meant their battle was only just beginning. My Hero jokingly asked if she was like a cancelled weekly comic artist who kept returning. Naruko replied that part of her job was making sure everything stayed safe, and that she would continue protecting him forever. She then boldly suggested they should share a bed. However, she was startled when My Hero pointed a fork at her, clearly ready to chase her off again. In the world of imagination, Naruto went on a destructive rampage. He did it out of revenge, claiming that the one to blame was not himself but Naruko. He swore he would track her down and settle the score. Meanwhile, back at home, Naruko was having breakfast with My Hero. She fed My Hero and playfully called him her big brother, though My Hero clearly disliked being addressed that way. Teasing him, Naruko asked if he preferred being called a big sister instead, joking that he was greedy for wanting both an older sister and a younger sister at once. She even joked about complicated relationships, making My Hero instantly annoyed. He grabbed a fork, said he wasn't some kind of weirdo, and poked her with it. Naruko pulled the fork out, pouted that My Hero was mean, but immediately followed it up by confessing her love for him again. My Hero asked if she had any real siblings. Naruko explained that she did have a family like anyone else, but insisted that for now, My Hero was her only older brother. My Hero pushed her face away and made it clear he didn't need a little sister like her. Naruko teased him again, telling him not to be so shy and that every now and then he should just show her some affection. Watching how My Hero kept pushing her away, she wondered if maybe he was a tsundere, pretending to be cold while actually being caring deep down. She even thought about the possibility that My Hero might be linked to the cursed lineage of god hunters described in the Black Book. My Hero immediately shut her down, saying he was neither a tsundere nor a god hunter, and demanded she stop making up ridiculous stories. Just then, their breakfast was eaten by Shantak. Naruko explained that after fighting a night gaunt, Shantak's body shrank until she could recover. Shantak suddenly jumped toward My Hero, startling him. Naruko pointed out that it seems Shantak liked him and reminded him that Shantak was cute. After rubbing against My Hero's legs, Shantak lay down. Naruko asked why My Hero wasn't petting her. My Hero finally started stroking Shantak, and Naruko told him that Shantak loved his touch. Shantak even licked his hand, which made Naruko ask if he could see just how adorable she was. Naruko then told My Hero that he didn't need to limit himself to petting Shantak. He could also pet her. She pointed to her stomach, bragging that her skin was softer and smoother, but My Hero ignored her. He quickly left for school while Naruko told Shantak to be a good girl and watch the house. That same day, Naruto finally found Naruko. He was her older brother, and his plan was to drag her down into a grave along with the entire planet Earth. At school, Naruko continued clinging to My Hero non-stop. Takahiko greeted my hero as soon as he walked in and asked if he had heard the latest rumor. Tamao then shared that a new transfer student was coming to their class. She described the student as having red twin-tail hair and cold eyes, then casually guessed that her chest size was probably an A cup. Hearing that, Naruko whispered to my hero that it felt like a bad omen. My hero thought the same thing. Moments later, their teacher came in and asked everyone to sit down. The transfer student walked in, and it turned out to be Thuko. She introduced herself as Naruko's wife. Shocked, Naruko and my hero both threw books at her. Naruko immediately asked why Thuko had enrolled in the school. Thuko said she just wanted to be near Naruko, and casually mentioned that she had already broken ties with the Noden's organization. Without hesitation, she even asked Naruko for a kiss. My hero was confused because he thought Thuko was Naruko's enemy. Naruko quickly threw Thuko down, insisting that they were eternal enemies and that something was definitely wrong with her. But Thuko got up and tried to get close again. Naruko demanded a proper explanation. Thuko revealed that she was now working for the Planetary Defense Organization. Naruko was shocked and asked how someone like Thuko, who had always been a NEET, could possibly get hired. Thuko admitted that her uncle worked in human resources and pulled some strings for her. Naruko was stunned, realizing that Thuko had gotten the job through connections, while she herself had gone through the effort of actually passing the exam like a fool. My hero asked why Thuko was there. Thuko explained that someone had been attacking the gods of fantasy, and if she did not protect the remaining ones, Earth would face serious trouble. Thuko suggested that she and Naruko should stay close together. She went on to explain that her boss had ordered both her and Naruko to work as a team and to use my hero's house as their base of operations. Naruko suspected that Thuko was just making things up, but Thuko insisted that she already had approval from her superior. Naruko strongly objected to the idea of turning my hero's home into their base, and my hero himself reminded them that it was his house, not theirs. He even said he would throw both Naruko and Thuko out alone in the trash. In an attempt to convince him, Thuko promised that she would return with Naruko to the Planetary Defense Organization once their mission was complete. Hearing that, my hero agreed to help. Naruko was confused about why my hero was suddenly willing to cooperate with Thuko. At that moment, the teacher interrupted and told the three of them to return to class, reminding them to focus on cultural activities without causing any more trouble. Naruto was still watching Naruko from above. He claimed that his hatred for Naruko had ruined his life, and even dragging her future into darkness would not be enough to settle a score. That day, there was swimming class. Inside the locker room, Thuko could not hide how much she admired Naruko's figure. Seeing this, Naruko firmly said that her entire self was devoted only to my hero. Suddenly, Tamao walked in and asked what kind of relationship Thuko and Naruko had. Naruko quickly responded that there was nothing special between them since it was their first real encounter, and she did not even know Thuko very well. Thuko suddenly embraced Naruko, claiming that they had promised to marry each other back in kindergarten. Tamao then joked, asking if that meant my hero's wife was Naruko and Naruko's wife was Thuko, adding that having two at once sounded kind of interesting. Thuko hugged Naruko again, insisting that since Tamao had acknowledged it, their marriage was now public and official. Whispering, she suggested they should build a happy future together with the big family. Hearing this, Naruko yanked Thuko's ear and firmly said that she had already registered her marriage with my hero. At the same time, a woman spotted Naruto standing on the school roof and immediately called the police, reporting that he had stolen her belongings, claiming it was a misunderstanding, and quickly ran away. The police chased him all the way to the school grounds, splitting up to corner him. While hiding, Naruto grew more bitter toward Naruko, blaming her for leaving him without a place to belong. Back at swimming class, Thuko commented about how soaked she was and pulled Naruko closer, asking her to enjoy the water together. Naruko scolded her for being forceful and reminded her that because she was made of fire, she could actually burn her skin she carefully cared for only because of my hero. Thuko responded that she would take full responsibility and would create a happy household for them both. Annoyed, Naruko hurled her staff at Thuko, who dodged. The staff ended up hitting Naruto, who was climbing the school wall at that exact moment. His body was flung backward and he fell down. During lunch break, Naruko went to the roof with my hero, feeding him the homemade bento she had prepared. My hero asked why her cooking had so many eggs. Naruko proudly said she used fresh eggs and explained that Shantak had laid plenty that very morning. Suddenly, Shantak appeared right behind my hero, clearly trying to lay more eggs. My hero quickly told her not to strain herself, reassuring her that he already appreciated her efforts. When Thuko tried to join in and eat the bento too, Naruko blocked her and even told her to leave. Thuko suddenly started sobbing, but Naruko knew she was only pretending. Thuko then pulled out a cake, which surprised Naruko, who guessed it must be the 10th anniversary cake from DK-do. Mahiro asked what DK-do was, and Nyaruko explained that DK-do was a famous bakery in outer space owned by D. Endo. Nyaruko wondered how Thuko managed to get such a rare cake. Thuko said that the man she met online worked as a security guard at the bakery. Nyaruko was surprised to learn that Thuko played online games despite being an NET. Thuko deliberately ate the cake in front of Nyaruko and even said she would eat it all by herself. She only did this because she knew Nyaruko wouldn't be able to resist it, and in the end, they shared their lunches. Thuko even asked Nyaruko to feed her. Naruto was still searching for Nyaruko to challenge her. Mahiro asked Thuko what her real mission was. Thuko explained that her boss had just sent information about the suspect via text message. It turned out that the suspect behind the massacre of the gods in the dream realm was a homeless, unemployed man from Nyarlathotep. Mahiro suspected that Nyaruko must know him. Nyaruko insisted that such a thing was impossible. Thuko then invited both of them to visit the dream realm after school. Nyaruko immediately hugged Mahiro and said the dream realm was the world of all dreams. Mahiro became annoyed and questioned why he would have a honeymoon with Nyaruko. Suddenly, several monsters appeared. Mahiro asked whether these monsters were connected to the massacre in the dream realm, but Nyaruko wasn't sure. Then Shantak flew toward the monsters, but they struck her away, causing her to crash into Mahiro. Seeing Mahiro injured, Nyaruko became upset and quickly fought the monsters with her saw, while Thuko used her CQC-100. Nyaruko cut down the monsters with her saw while Thuko fired lasers at them. At that moment, Naruto was observing the battle and wondered why Thuko was friends with Nyaruko, who was supposed to be her eternal enemy. Just as Naruto was about to join the fight, he was suddenly surrounded by laser fire and narrowly avoided Naruko's flying saw. Once the fight was over, Naruko and Thuko returned to the previous dimension. Naruko rushed over to Mahiro, who had fainted, and carried him to the student infirmary. She felt deeply guilty for letting the monsters hurt him and took full responsibility for what happened. Inside the infirmary, Naruko pulled back the blanket, expecting to find Mahiro resting, but instead, Thuko was lying there. Naruko, shocked, asked what Thuko was doing there and accused her of being shameless. Thuko said Mahiro had stepped out earlier and had asked her to spend time with Naruko. She admitted she had chosen Naruko as the first person she wanted to be with. Naruko grew frustrated and pushed Thuko away, but Thuko blushed and asked her to be gentle. Meanwhile, Mahiro was actually in class. Takahiko asked what had happened to him, and Mahiro simply said that a lot had occurred. When the school day ended, students began preparing to go home. At the school gate, Naruto was waiting for Naruko. He recalled how living in the shadow of his talented younger sister had always made him feel miserable, but that day he believed that defeating Naruko would end his suffering. Mahiro walked out with Naruko and Thuko and asked if they were heading to the dream realm. Naruko said she couldn't because a new episode of her favorite Steel Warrior drama was airing. Mahiro reminded her that she was supposed to be working. Naruko quickly transformed Shantak into a motorcycle, which she called the Machine Shantak car, and invited Mahiro to ride home with her. She sped off on the bike, but just as they reached the front gate, Naruto appeared, shouting that no younger sister could ever surpass her older brother. Naruko was shocked to see her brother standing in her way. Then Naruto's body transformed into a huge monster. Naruko immediately rammed the bike into his leg, causing him pain until he disappeared. Mahiro, startled, asked if Naruko had just hit something, but she brushed it off and told him it was probably just his imagination. At Mahiro's house, Naruko was happily watching TV, while Thuko was busy playing video games. Mahiro couldn't help but feel annoyed, since everything they did only made his home messier. Not long after, Naruko got a phone call from her boss. Her boss told her that the mission was completed and the target signal had disappeared. Around the same time, Thuko also received a call letting her know that she was officially allowed to stay on Earth. Naruko then asked Mahiro to praise her for saving the planet from disaster without causing any incidents. Mahiro, still suspicious, asked about the older brother Naruko had mentioned earlier at the school gate. Naruko quickly brushed it off, saying it was just Mahiro's imagination. She then shared that she had been reassigned to a support team working for the gods of the fantasy world. Thuko cheerfully added that both of them could now live on Earth. Hearing that, Mahiro was shocked. He asked if that meant they would be staying in his house, and also wondered why Thuko didn't just take Naruko back with her once the mission was over. Thuko admitted she didn't really care where she lived as long as she could stay with Naruko. Feeling overwhelmed, Mahiro told them to focus on their new duties in the fantasy world instead, but before the situation could calm down, his phone started ringing. It was his mother calling. Before answering, Mahiro firmly told Naruko not to say anything. However, the moment Mahiro picked up, Naruko deliberately made a playful comment that gave the wrong impression about what was happening in the house. On the other end of the line, his mother asked if someone else was there, but Mahiro avoided the question and instead asked why she was calling. His mother then explained that she had cut her honeymoon trip short and would be arriving home in just 40 seconds. My hero froze in shock, unsure of what to do next.